Thanks, Pam. Okay, so let's get started. My name is Jenny Davis. I'm the coordinator for the Metro Phoenix EcoFlora project, and we'll go into what that is here in a moment. If you all will remain muted unless you have a question. And like I said, this is meant to be interactive. We have a pretty good sized group of people here, but not too big. That was our intention so that we can kind of have more one-on-one interaction. Just unmute yourself and ask a question, but until that time, please remain muted. You can have your camera on and off, whatever you prefer. Thank you for attending Flora Finder training today. I'm really excited about this and I hope you all are too. Like I said, I'm going to give a short overview of our project and then we'll get into the basics of SEINet and then finally how you can use SEINet to help us in the project document things on iNaturalist. So the EcoFlora project is a community science project that collects data on urban biodiversity, specifically plants. Now we take observations of everything because we look at ecological interactions too, like birds and what they're eating plant-wise. But at the same time, we enhance community relationships with nature through events, trainings, and like this one, and science communication like newsletters and social media. You can read our 3 goals here on this slide. So this was initially from New York Botanical Garden, and they received a national leadership grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services to scale this project up across the country. So each of the gardens you see here has their own project, including us at Desert Botanical Garden. The Metro Phoenix EcoFlora is our local chapter of this larger EcoFlora project. EcoFlora is also the umbrella of the Central Arizona Conservation Alliance, another initiative of Desert Botanical Garden. So for this project, we use both iNaturalist and SEINet. So iNaturalist is a really cool web-based platform and app that helps identify what you're seeing and keeps a record of it. So you can use this app to go outside, take a picture of a plant, and it actually recommends identifications for what you're seeing. It's very, very cool and very accurate, which stands out from a lot of other plant identification apps. SEINet, in really basic terms, is an online platform that lets you access data about plant life, including, but not limited to, floras and herbarium specimens. Botanists and researchers use this platform for all kinds of data access and information. So using these 2 sources, we compare data and it helps us understand more about the state of biodiversity here in Metro Phoenix. And you can see that boundary, it's pretty large for our project, pretty much almost down to Coolidge, up to New River, to Gold Canyon, and over to almost out by the West Valley. So we've got a pretty big study area, which coordinates with really well with the Phoenix Flora that was done in 1999. So we use, like I said, these 2 sources to compare that data. And I want to say that even if you're not a project member, like I mentioned earlier, you can still learn from this class. So please don't feel like you're in the wrong place or you're not welcome. So we're going to go over the very basics of SEINet today. And then, like I said, how you can use it to help us with the Metro Phoenix EcoFlora project. But I want to talk about the species list that we've created. So we have 2. One is our target list, which is plants that have been recorded in SEINet, but not on iNaturalist. And the other is our collection list, and that's basically the flip side of the target list. So things that have been seen on iNaturalist, but not SEINet. So I'm going to put those links in the chat here in a minute. So why are these useful? So what do we use these lists for? The collection list consists of plants that we don't have vouchers for. Vouchers are pressed and dried plant specimens mounted to paper like you see here in the bottom left of this slide. And they serve as like a physical record of what plants have been found in an area through time. So we use the collection list and the observations on iNaturalist to go out and make collections and submit vouchers for the herbarium. So the target list, which again is plants in SEINet but not iNaturalist, can help us go out and look for plants to see if they're still in the area or how the population is doing. So we can look and say, okay, the last record we have for this plant in the herbarium is 1954. Can we go see if it still exists and take an observation on iNaturalist? So we'll take that data and then make a comprehensive list of kind of what the changes of plant life might look like in Metro Phoenix over time. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to place those links in the chat for you really quickly. So you'll see this is our target list if you'd like to check that out. And then we also have, let's see here, we have our collection list. Get my windows straight. And then I'm going to place the link to SEINet in the chat last. So feel free to open that up and follow along, or you can just watch for now. And then we will send out the recording so you can watch it later and kind of follow along that way as well. So let me share my screen and we'll get started on SEINet. Is everybody doing okay so far? I know that was a lot to throw at you. All right, well, like I said, if you have any questions at any point, just unmute and get my attention and I'll do my best to answer you. So when you go to the homepage of SEINet, this is what you see first thing. And some of you said that you have experience with SEINet, so you might know how to use this page to look up basic information. I'm going to run through that for everyone who's not familiar with this at all. So basically you have your welcome message and you see some other kind of portals to other areas. SEINet is under the umbrella of Symbiota. So that's a big biodiversity or really a database for herbaria across the country. And SEINet's our kind of local portal for that for Arizona, New Mexico. So one of the first things that you'll see is the plant of the day, and I get snagged by this every single time I log into SEINet. I love playing the plant of the day game. So if you click this picture, it'll take you to the plant of the day game and you can guess the family and the genus and the species. There's a couple of pictures. And this is really good for helping you up your identification game. And these are plants found throughout, the SEINet portal. So you can take a guess, and even if you don't know how to spell something, it has auto suggest, which is great. That's very helpful. And if you don't know, the scientific name, you can just say, I don't know, I give up, or you can submit, and it'll tell you, okay, you got the family right, but not the species, and you can try again, or you can see what the plant was. So it'll actually take you to another window that pops up, and it will show you what the plant actually is. So it'll take you to this page. And we'll get to this in just a second. So let's go back home. You can hit this home button on the top left, and it'll take you back to that initial screen. So what I'm going to do first is this box right here where it says search taxon. So this is where you can type in a scientific name for any plant that you're looking for. It won't accept common names, just so you know. But if you do know, you can start typing the scientific name and it'll bring up suggestions of all that taxa in that genus, which is really helpful. And then you can click which one you're looking for and hit search. So that will bring up a page full of information about this specific species. So you can see images here, and this box gives you kind of a Southwest field guide. And I really like this tab. It gives you a lot of cool information, the ethnobotany, etymology, so you know who it was named after, things like that. There's lots of great info here for identification as well. So you can see leaves, flowers, fruits, all those descriptions here. And then there's some web links on this tab that take you to other databases where you could learn more if you wanted to. So up here in the top left, you'll see the scientific name and the family, and then you can see common names here as well. And then if you scroll down, you can hit click to display images, and that'll open this up further. So you'll see pictures, and then you'll see those herbarium vouchers. And what's nice is if you click on any of these, it will bring it up and you can actually zoom in, and they're almost full size. They're very detailed. You can even read the labels and all of that. It's really cool. So you can go back through and see, all those vouchers that they have for this species. And I don't encourage you to use this right here, what says open interactive map. This one, for some reason, tends to get really bogged down and it doesn't load data as well. And it'll take you to like this global view instead of a local one. It gets kind of messy. You can, but I'll show you the way that honestly I prefer and makes it a little easier. So that's what happens when you type in that taxa, and then we'll go back home. So we're back to this home page, and I'm going to go through all of these tabs at the top really quickly. We're not going to do a deep dive into everything because it's a lot of stuff, but I'll give you the basics. So specimen search we'll get into later because this is what we'll be using mainly today when we're going through. But you can do an image search. So you can click image browser. And this is the same kind of thing. So you can type in, any plant that you're looking for and hit search, and it'll bring up images that people have uploaded for that species. So if you go to images again and hit search images, it's a little different. So here you can search by very specific things like who took the image. So if you know the photographer, you could even look for it that way. Some people tag their images. You could search for those if you know what they are. So this is just a little more detailed version of that search. So Flora projects right here will take you to different Flora projects in different states or organizations. So you could click Arizona, and this will take you to all of the floras going on in Arizona. Floras are basically plant inventories in a certain geographical area. So you can check these out and bring any of these up. We can take a look at the Phoenix flora, and that will bring that up for you. So you can click more details and see, okay, how does this work? Who did this? And any of the details that person provided. And then it's listed, by family is what this person shows. So you can go through family and see all of those species in that flora. And something nice over here on the right, you can choose to display as images. So if you're like me, I'm very visually oriented, so I like to see things. And you can click that little check mark and then build list. So then it will show you all of this in a visual format, which is, I think, really helpful. So you can bring up all of those and take a look. So that's the floras. And then you can go to agency floras. This is basically the same thing, but it's for National Park Service, US Fish and Wildlife, BLM. So it's basically their floras for different agencies. So dynamic floras is where you can build a checklist if you wanted to. So if you were going to visit a certain area, if you were going to somewhere in New Mexico, you could choose what where you're going and build a checklist so you can check out plants that might be in that area. And then you also have dynamic key that works a little bit the same way. I'm not going to get too deep into this. Like I said, we're going to really do the specimen search today. Just wanted you to know that that's there. So additional websites, this is any organization or more information basically. So like Southwest Colorado Wildflowers has a nice key for their wildflowers up there, and this takes you to a fun resource to key out wildflowers in their area. So that's kind of fun. You can check out different things that people have put on this tab. And, like I said, if you're going somewhere else, there's even Mid-Atlantic. So if you're going to the East Coast, you could check out things there. And then resources, this could be really helpful. This is a user guide. So you can see more about how Symbiota works, that overall umbrella that I was talking about earlier. And then there's also video tutorials. This could be helpful for you all to reference later, because there's a YouTube channel of how to do things on Symbiota and SEINet. So this can be really helpful for you to check out later. And then contributing specimens. So this again is a breakdown of existing specimens and portals, and this is a lot of good information that you can read through about images, the library, all that kind of stuff. So these could be really helpful resources for you. So we're going to go back home just so we can kind of have our navigation. And what we're going to do is go to specimen search. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions? Give you a chance to unmute. Am I going too fast? Is everything making sense so far? Yes. Give me some thumbs up. Okay. Thank you. Caitlin says, yes, making sense. Perfect. All right. So let's get into specimen search. So you can search collections. And this brings up all of the herbaria that have those vouchers and images. So these are all the places that have records that you can explore. So there's quite a bit. And what you can do, this handy button right here, you can hit deselect all, and that will unclick all of those. So if you're looking for something specifically in Desert Botanical Gardens herbarium, you can click that one. And that will only bring up things that are in Desert Botanicals herbarium. And you have Arizona State, so you could look for those two, or you could just search everything. That's a good question. Caitlin asked, is DBG's herbarium fully digitized? I don't believe so. I think we have some things in the works because it's constantly adding to. So people that bring in vouchers, you know, we need to get those photographs and digitized. So it's kind of constantly updating. So we can select everything just to see what we get, and then you can hit search. And this is a lot of fields that you can use to get very specific about what you're looking for. So again, you can put the scientific name, you can include synonyms, which is a nice option. So if something has, you know, multiple, or the taxa has changed, it'll include and recognize that. The scientific name, you can do family, you can do common name on this one. So this is a little different from that original search page where you can actually enter common names. So I like to go by scientific name. We can do my favorite again. And then you can actually search by country or province. So we could do Maricopa. You can even do elevation, which is pretty incredible. So if you know a record or you know where something is found, you can put in that elevation to look for it. Latitude, longitude. If you know who collected it, if you know Wendy Hodgson was the one that put it in there, you can search for her. And then there's things down here. I like to, for our project specifically in Metro Phoenix, because we look at things in urban areas, I like to include captive cultivated. So you'll get those as well. But you also have a lot of options here, you know, limit to type specimens or just things that have photographs. So you can do a lot of different options in this screen. And you can play around with this. You're not going to hurt anything by doing searches. You're not going to reset anything or contribute data that, you know, will throw anything out of whack. So once you've got things typed in, you hit list display, or you can display as a table. I like to do list. And so what you'll get is a list of occurrence records. And this is those herbarium vouchers or occurrence data. So you can see ASU, we've got a whole bunch at ASU. And if you scroll all the way down, there's multiple pages. So you can see right here, the 1 and 2. So you could go to page 2 and you'll see the whole next list of what comes up. So if we click full record details, let me copy and paste really quick. It'll pop up in a new window. So a lot of things in SEINet will bring you to a pop-up, and I'm going to put that in the window that we're looking at right now. So this is what it looks like when you click on those, kind of the same thing that we saw earlier when we did that search tab, but you have some linked resources, you can submit comments, you can also look at a map and see where it was seen. But this doesn't have, you know, that the field notes section or the field guide where it gives you, you know, the leaf measurements or the flower color. So this is basically the label of the herbarium specimen put, you know, typed out. So that's what this information is right here. So you can see all of this, you know, the catalog number, the occurrence ID, the taxon, family, habitat. So anything that anyone, you know, put on this herbarium label, you'll see here. So you can see associated species. They noted gentle north slope, upland Sonoran desert. So there's a lot of information that can be contained, you know, in these specific records. You even have usage rights down here at the bottom. So if you ever choose to use these in a presentation or for a paper, this is your usage rights. So we'll go back. So to start over again, you can hit search criteria right here, and it'll take you back to this page. So you can just type in something new, do the same thing, and look through those records. So you can also do a table display, and that will do kind of more of an Excel sheet looking format. So you can go through this and, some people prefer this. It's an easier way to see a lot of data at once rather than a list of those vouchers or records. So the locality will come up, latitude, longitude, habitat. So this is, a pretty organized way to look at it. So does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. So if we go to the map search, this is what's most helpful for the Metro Phoenix EcoFlora project. So what we really want to do is take a look and see, we have this list of species that are in SEINet, but they haven't been observed in iNaturalist. So we want to take a look and find those specimens. So if you open the map search, this is the screen that you initially see. It may load as a world view at first, so don't panic if it's everywhere and not just Arizona. And then you can open the search panel right here at the top left, and you'll get this drop down menu. And this is kind of like what we just did for searching the collections. So it's just basically inputting, scientific name or common name. You get that same drop down menu. So you have, again, family, common name, these options. And then you can put country or state or province, county. I like to fill this field out because if you don't, it will do the whole world when you hit search. So it's nice to be able to just have it honed into where you really want to kind of start looking. So you can type in what you're looking for and where. Again, you have the option for collector's last name, date, and then this include captive cultivated, and those other options are still here like we saw in the last screen. So what happens now, you can click map options, and this will kind of give you an option to do sizing. I don't ever really mess with that, but feel free to try it out if you'd like. But then you can hit search, and it will load where you specified and what you specified. So these are all of the observations of desert chicory in Maricopa. So you can click on these little dots, and it'll tell you who made that collection. And then if you click details, sometimes it's a little finicky. Again, it pops up in another window. So let me go ahead and copy and paste that over. So it'll pop up in a separate window, but this is what it looks like when it pops up. So again, you get that same herbarium voucher label, and that's all of that information there. And same kind of thing like we saw in the search, you have the map, the comments, and linked resources. So you can see that information. So all of these, some of these expand, and you'll have like a bunch of them in one area. So you can use this, for our project, we're looking at, okay, where were these species found and when? So we can say, okay, well, there was one near Paradise Valley. Let's open that up and put that in there. So we can look and say, okay, this was 1901, which is really, really impressive. So, desert chicory was found in 1901 near Paradise Valley, and it actually gives you coordinates. So you can take these coordinates right here, copy and put them into Google Maps, and actually go right to where this was recorded, so long as it's not private property or, that you have open access to it. So that's what we really want to use this for, is to find find where these species were in the past and find out if they're still there. And like I said, that helps us figure out, okay, are these species still in the area? Kind of what's happening to plant life in Metro Phoenix. Our coordinates, I have a question in the chat. Our coordinates scrambled a bit like iNaturalist or Direct. Good question. They're usually more accurate because when these collections are made, unless it's really old like this, sometimes those get a little funky and, but these should be more accurate and more pinpoint than iNaturalist. Because the person that made this collection and took this voucher wrote down, where they were when they took it. So I'm going to open this image. So what I did was I clicked on this right here, and you can open it as a medium or large. So you can actually see the plant that was collected. And it's really great. They're really usually very high resolution, and you can see this plant that was collected, in 1901. And you do get some things that are a little mixed up. So sometimes data gets, incorrectly input. So something could say it was 1901 when it was actually 1994. It's just, technicalities, there's a lot of data to input, and sometimes, we're human and we make mistakes. So you might find where things are a little bit off here and there, but for the most part, everything is really accurate. So you can see, again, the labels you can zoom in on: plants of Arizona, Paradise Valley. See, we have a question mark here. So we think this was FM Irish that collected it. But there's sometimes very cool information here. You can find where some people put, information about people that were living here and how they used that plant. So depending on who made the voucher, there's a lot of really cool information that can be found. So let's take a look here, and I'll go back to the home. Actually, let's go back to, so this specimen search. So these two, this one is not one that I use for this search. So you can check this out if you want to on your own time. So you can get American grasses, and it kind of goes down into these lists. But the ones that are most helpful and easiest to use are these search collections and map search. And I want to show you another thing when you open that map search. And we open this search panel, and we can type in again what we're looking for and where. So when you hit search, actually, let's just do a genus. So if we just do Raffinaceae and then hit search, it'll bring up all of the things in that genus. So if we open the search panel again, we can go to collections, and you can see here these shapes that we have. So on the left here, you'll see collection and observation. So what this means is the circle is a collection, so there's an actual voucher attached to it, and a triangle is an observation, so basically strictly photographs. And these squares here, if you click on these, you can actually change the color. So you can see all the vouchers that were collected and are at the Arizona State University herbarium. So if you're looking for, okay, I want to see different things and I want to make them stand out. So these are all the ones collected, or I'm sorry, housed at Desert Botanical Gardens. So this is really helpful if you're looking for specifics. And again, this is a visual way to do it instead of more of a list. So if you click on taxa list up here, kind of the same thing. So you can change these little squares and it will show you which species. So if we want to say, okay, let's put Californica in green, and then let's do Neo-Mexicana in, let's do yellow. That's a little too close. Let's do blue. So now you can see these divided out by species, specific epithet. So Raffinaceae californica is in blue, and Raffinaceae neo-mexicana is, I'm sorry, opposite, blue and green, but you get the idea. So you can see the different species and how they're distributed across the map. So that can be really helpful if you want to see even population differences, or what's more common in our area. And then you can click on records, and this is actually a list of all of those same records. So it's kind of like that table format with a little less information. You can see the collector, the date. So this is cool. You can see, one was collected in 2008, this one's 1968. So you can go through the dates and see that information. So if you go up here to search criteria and options, that brings that window back open so you don't have to reload it, and do everything over again. And if you hit collections, this again is that same thing like we talked about in the other search panel. You can deselect all. And if you only want to see things at, sorry for the zoom, only at Desert Botanical Garden, you can click that option. And then criteria, and then search again. So it's only going to bring up things that are in DBG's herbarium. Does anybody have questions? Does that all make sense? Is there anything you want me to go back to? Okay. So that's a basic rundown of SEINet. Pat has a comment in the chat. Usually corrections on herbarium specimens are added above the label. Yes, absolutely. So if there's anything that got updated, like I said, if a date was wrong or something wasn't right, they'll add the update on a sticker or a label above the original. Polygon feature on SEINet map. Yep. So I'm gonna get into a little bit of Metro Phoenix EcoFlora. So let's go to iNaturalist. And most of you said you're not familiar with iNaturalist. So this is the web-based version of iNaturalist. There's also an app. And this is kind of the same thing. You can search for, this isn't just plants, this is wildlife, insects, anything like that. So you can type in this search bar up here. And again, you can do scientific name. The nice thing about iNaturalist is you can also do a common name. And then we can click view observations of any of those species, and it'll load in the map. And again, it loads as kind of a world map unless you specify otherwise. So we can zoom in and see, here's the zoom over here. So we can see, okay, where were these found? And it takes a little bit to load. iNaturalist has a lot of data. They've been around for a while now, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So all of these little red dots, this is kind of the same thing as the dots that we saw on SEINet. And you can click on these and see who observed it and where. So it's very almost a similar format. So you can click on this, and these are observations that people have made. So there aren't necessarily vouchers, those pressed plant specimens for these. And that's one of the things that we hope to do with the collection list, is things that we don't have that voucher for. We're hoping to go out and find those and make vouchers for them in Metro Phoenix using iNaturalist. So you can see different photos, and on iNaturalist, people can suggest identifications. So, we can say, yes, I agree, this is, California chicory. And once enough people agree, it becomes research grade, and that information actually goes into a global biodiversity database that people can use. And a lot of people use iNaturalist data for publishing papers in itself, not necessarily just that global database, but we can use iNaturalist in itself and all the scientific information and data that we have in it. So same thing here, you can see a map with more observations. And then if you want to, you can go back here. And so to kind of filter through things, you have this filter button right here. So click that. And these are kind of the parameters similar to SEINet that you can set while you're searching. So you can even do wild, or was it captive? Is it research grade like I was just talking about? doesn't need someone to identify it. Pat asked in the chat, are all observations via pictures? Yes, but some people are starting to link vouchers to observations. So on those vouchers, they'll put a QR code that can be scanned and link it to the iNaturalist observation, which is really cool. Or some people are actually attaching vouchers, photos of their voucher to their iNaturalist observation and putting a photo in their observation, which is really neat too. But iNaturalist also allows you to do sound. So you can record a bird or, coyotes howling. And we can actually upload those sounds and people can help identify that way as well. So if you click this More Filters button right here, you get a drop-down menu and you can actually search by who made the observation or a project or a place. So we can type in Metro Phoenix. And that's kind of like what we did in SEINet, where we typed Maricopa County, and it'll bring you all those observations that were made in that boundary. So we can update, and you can see the Metro Phoenix boundary, and then all the observations of desert chicory in that bounding box. Pam, are you talking about a voucher in iNaturalist or a voucher in SEINet? I don't have any examples on hand. I'll make a note to send that out. I would have to look at who's been doing it and then find one. So I'll make a note and I'll send that out with the recording of the video. Kevin, how does the voucher work? Meaning, how do we make vouchers? Okay, so so it would be the same process. So how do we make a voucher in iNat is what you're saying. So basically making a voucher, you go out and make a collection and then press that plant specimen, dry it, freeze it, mount it, you have your label put on, and then it gets accessioned into an herbarium. And not everyone can do that. You need permissions for that. So once you have that in the herbarium and it's had a photograph taken of that voucher, people can then upload that image to their iNaturalist observation. So that would be how that works. So it's not necessarily open to the public for vouchers. I suppose you could make your own and just not have it attached to any herbaria. You could just press and mount your own specimens if you wanted to and have your own library. But for the ones that are linked to herbaria, yeah, you have to have that access. Does that make sense? Cool. Does anybody else have any questions right now? Pat, you're right. To physically collect, you need a permit for public lands. Absolutely. So even going out and collecting can't just be willy-nilly. You go out to anywhere and make this collection and press it. And, just like you wouldn't go out and, collect from someone's private property without their permission. Same thing, you need that permit for public lands and even state city parks, you need that permission. We have on iNaturalist, do we need to add to project for it to be helpful for EcoFlora? So let's go through that really quickly. So to join EcoFlora, you go up to this top search bar and you can start typing in Metro Phoenix EcoFlora, and it should be the first one that pops up. And you want to click About. If you click View Observations, it's just going to take you to a screen with everything that we've seen for the project. So then you want to click About, and this is our project page. So let me go ahead and I'll put that link in the chat so you guys can check that out if you want to. I wish everyone can hear that. Tired of people and their infinite creosote collections. Yeah, foraging has gotten a little out of control as of late, which can be a real bummer. But this is our home project page. And what you'll see when you are here, I'm already a member, so it doesn't show up on my screen, but there's a button here in this orange box that says join. And once you click that, you'll be a member, and you'll be a member forever unless you choose to leave. And what that does is all of the observations that you make with iNaturalist will automatically be included in the project. So you don't have to add them individually. So if you do it that way and join, like I said, everything from that point on will be automatically added so long as you're a member of the project. So you can see these are our numbers, our observations, how many species we've seen. We have 196 people actively observing. And then if you click here, you can see recent observations. And this takes us to that very similar screen of like we see in SEINet, like the Explore screen. But you can also click here and see a grid. So this will bring up all images. So again, this is akin to the image search in SEINet. So you can see all the things that people are seeing in Metro Phoenix, which I'm honestly shocked by sometimes. I had no idea roseate spoonbills were here in Metro Phoenix. I thought they belonged in Florida. So there's some really fun things that you can see. And again, you can hit list, and akin to SEINet, you'll get it in a list format with the place, when it was added, who saw it, and you can go through that way. You can sort by most recently seen, or who saw it first using these tabs. See that you can switch that up, and it might take a minute because it's a lot of data. So you can do that. When it was added, you can filter that way as well. We'll go back to our home screen. So here we have, these are our stats. So George, who's with us today, is currently the #1 observer for the project with 3,000 observations, which is incredible. Lisa's catching up to you though. And then we have most species by Julie Stromberg, the most species observed. So this is really interesting to see, what people are seeing the most of through the project. And then we have a journal. So if you click here, this is where we'll put lots of information about our events, or Tom Gatz was kind enough to provide an article for us about oleanders. We put that in here. Our events are recording. So this is a lot of what's just happening with the project and what's going on. And again, you'll see our map at the bottom with the boundary and everything that people are seeing. And you can zoom in on all these dots, which looks really overwhelming at first because there's a lot. But you can zoom in and you can click on these individual spots and again, see what those observations were and who saw it. And you can click on it and open it up. So that's another way to search in the project. So you can use iNaturalist for all over the world, not just Metro Phoenix, not just our project. And there's lots of really cool different projects that you can join. A lot of community science efforts. There's some looking at native bees, others look at bee hotels. One project looks at roadkill to see how much we're losing and where we could use wildlife corridors. People do a lot of really neat things. So I encourage you to kind of explore that iNaturalist community. And like I said, this does have an app. So there is an iNaturalist app that you download to your phone, and you can take photographs while you're out hiking and then upload them, and you'll get suggestions of what you've seen. So it actually will suggest identifications, which is really, really cool. And then it actually keeps a life list for you. So I can show you that too. So let's go to, this is me. And I can go to observations. So it keeps a list of everything that I've made an observation of. So this is really cool for you on a personal level, because this keeps a record of things that you've seen. And I think that's really cool. So over the years, you can go, oh, what was that plant I saw? And if you remember where or when, you can look for it in your own kind of library, which is really cool. So it keeps a record of all of your observations. Does anybody have questions? Still doing okay? Yep. Okay. Sounds good. So I'll go back here. So you have where you can, put about yourself, and the website has a way better community aspect to it than the app does. In the app, you can't really message back and forth or comment, but through the website you can, and you can actually follow scientists or each other and send messages and say, hey, what do you think this plant might be? So it's really helpful, and you really build relationships with professionals and other naturalists or interested botanists and things. It's really, really great. And I think it's really helpful for learning. If you're not familiar and you're not, botanically keen or even insects. I'm not an entomologist, and I've learned a lot about seeing other people's observations. And, the neat thing about iNaturalist is you can see more ecological interactions. So someone will post a bee, on a cactus bloom, and we'll go, okay, well, this is pollinating this cactus, and it's a lot of really interesting things. So I'm going to put the link to iNaturalist in the chat here in a second. Does anybody have questions? We're running down to 10 minutes on the clock. I've got a question from Archer. Actually, Kathy says iNaturalist is the best social media outlet to be on. I have to agree. It's very fun, especially for naturalists. Archer asked, does iNat help with insect identification? Yes. So let me go back to the home page. And actually, I'll go to our project page if I can type. So there we go. So if you take a look at even just in our project, what people are seeing, we've got mushrooms, we've got plants, we've got a moth here. There's a really, this one. This person takes excellent, really cool photos of insects. So this is another thing, you'll see people that take great photographs and you can follow them and keep up with like what they're doing. So if you're really interested in insects, you can find local experts or global experts and follow them and see what they're doing. Kathy said you can even do macro invertebrates. Yep, you can. So yes, so you'll see here this person has photographed what looks like an acorn ant. So this is what they suggested at first that it was. Other people came in and said, no, this is what we think it is. And you can actually say, thank you for the identification. So there is that same system, whether it's a plant, animal, insect, fungus, anything like that. People can weigh in and help identification. Kathy said, I've had scientists contact me to send them specimens so they could do molecular analysis. Yeah, so it's a good place to connect, and people browse iNaturalist a lot. Like Kathy said, it's like social media. So you can go in and, browse through observations, and some scientists can catch things and go, oh, that's really interesting. We'd like a sample of that, or could you send us this? And sometimes people discover new species, whether it's invasive or just something new to the area. There have been instances of people finding, actually through the New York Ecoflora, they found a rare ash tree in a park that they had no idea had been there, and a project member found it. And someone said, hey, wait a minute, this looks different than everything else. And they actually found a rare ash tree in a park. So that's really cool with that community connection and that collaboration. Do you have any more questions? I know this was a lot of information to throw at you. It's a lot of stuff. So you'll get the recording in your email. Caitlin said, is there a timeline for the project? So Metro Phoenix Ecoflora, the community engagement aspect of it is going to be at least through September 2022. So I will at least be putting up the eco questions videos each month. We interview an expert or even other iNaturalist community members about specific topics. So we do that every month. We have a newsletter, we have our social media, and that will at least be through September 2022. This iNaturalist project exists indefinitely. So you can continue to add observations even past that time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Lois, yes, very cool. Yeah, we actually, someone in the chat said it would be helpful to have a hands-on training. We do those, and we're going to be doing more of those now that there's better access to being in person together. And we're doing limited events with like 10 people or less, and we're starting to do in-person trainings. So let me stop sharing my screen if no one has any other questions, and I'll put up my information so you all have my email. So this is me. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. Feel free to say, hey, I don't remember what you said and I can't find it in the recording. I'm happy to help any way that I can. And then let me in the chat, I'll put a link to our newsletter. So let me see. Zoom's freezing on me for a second. So I'll type, I'm going to stop sharing really quickly. I'll type my email in the chat. It's ecofloraphx@dbg.org. Sorry, Lois, I just sent that to you directly. Here we go, ecofloraphx@dbg.org. So that's the email that you can reach me at. Let me go back through the chat really quickly. Yeah, City Nature Challenge, Kathy said next spring. So there's a global event that happens where everybody around the world tries to make as many observations as they can over a period of 4 days using iNaturalist. And that happens in the spring, usually end of April. And Metro Phoenix Ecoflora and Educating Children Outdoors were official organizers last year. And we were 30th in the world for our first year. So that was really exciting. Lots of people participated, but let me put a link to our newsletter. So this is a link to sign up for the Metro Phoenix Ecoflora newsletter. That's the best way to keep up with everything that we're doing with these events that we have. Like I said, the interviews with people every month are trainings. So those hands-on, if you would like to join us to learn how to use that app in person, and make observations and learn more about iNaturalist, we'll be doing more of those. Next month, every month we have a new eco quest. So we look for a specific plant or an ecological interaction. And for August, we're going to be looking for lovebirds and see where they're nesting or what they might be eating. And we're actually going to do a walk at a park looking for lovebirds. So we'll have different events every month that you can check out. So really quickly, we have a little bit of time left. I know not everyone is at the same level of experience. Give me 1 second, I think that link broke. That should be a little better. You can copy and paste that link. This is to a spreadsheet that is our target list. So what I just dropped in the chat will take you to a Google spreadsheet of our target species. So if you feel confident in your capabilities of using SEINet and iNaturalist, you can check out this spreadsheet and look for species that we haven't seen like we were talking about. So you could be the first person to observe something on iNaturalist in the Metro Phoenix area that we haven't observed yet. So if you do, there's 3 fields in there for you to put your iNaturalist username and a link to the observation. So you can let me know also if you do find one of those species. You can email me and give me a heads up and say, hey, I found this, and we can verify it and make sure that it's correctly identified. So we're really excited about this because it's like a, thank you, Kathy, for fixing that link. So it's like a biodiversity scavenger hunt, basically. We'll be going out and looking to see if we can find those things, like I was mentioning earlier, using SEINet to get those coordinates and go out and see if they're still there. So if you do that and find one, super exciting. We may even have prizes for people. We have lots of Ecoflora goodies. So we're excited to see what we can find. Do we have any other questions? We've got about 3 minutes on the clock. Was that overwhelming for anybody? That's a lot. Kaylin says, thank you. Awesome. Excited to get out there and help. You guys are welcome. Thank you so much for attending. I hope that makes sense. And like I said, this will be available as a recording only to those that registered today, so you can go back and watch things. And I'll also include all the links that we mentioned today, so don't feel like you have to scramble to copy those out of the chat. I'll send those in the email as well. I'll give a couple more minutes for questions if anybody wants to ask. All right. Well, thank you, like I said, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Again, don't hesitate to email me. I'm here to help. And please sign up for our newsletter. We'll be putting those trainings in and really getting some of that hands-on experience in there and lots of other fun things. So I look forward to seeing you. It'd be nice to meet people in person finally once we get going. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye, everyone.